Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Back to Backlog podcast with Lindsay and
Sam.
this week we're going to be talking about some licensed games based on TV shows, movies, books, anything that has a license that they've made a game out of. But first, what have you been up to? What have you been playing?
Oh, well, I had to put my game room back together because the landlord did some work in there. So I had taken the excuse to swap out which consoles were out. And I took the sort of Xbox, the like VCR model Xbox One that I have acquired past year or two. And I put on a wood veneer. It was a super pain in the butt because it was like trying to put on a screen protector, but it's made out of stiff wood and it doesn't want to come back up. But it looks great. And I also recently modded my Game Boy Advance. So I've been playing a bunch of Pokemon ROM hacks.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's been really cool. What have you been up to?
Let's see. Well, gaming wise, I actually haven't been up to that much. I've just been playing just fun kind of casual games. I did go to a couple of concerts, which was fun. I saw Slipknot last weekend, and then a couple weekends before that I saw Rivers of Nile, which was a lot of fun. But yeah, on the Switch store, a bunch of the Lego games were on sale, so I bought the DC Supervillains, Marvel Superheroes 2, and Jurassic Park Lego games. I played through Jurassic Park Lost World and kind of realized like halfway through I had never seen that movie, which I went back, actually watched them last night, and today I watched the second and third movies, and a couple of things from Jurassic World make more sense now. Like, I think they reference like the incident in San Francisco, and I'm like, I don't remember that.
Oh yeah, that's the whole
like I just
whole second
didn't
movie.
question it. Yeah, like I didn't question it. So yeah, but but it was fun. But they were only like a couple bucks each. I think the two superhero ones were like maybe $5 to $8 with all the DLC and stuff. So yeah, it was a pretty good deal.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've been enjoying those. So I've gone through like the base game on the DC and Marvel one, and then I'm playing through Jurassic Park now.
That's cool. That's cool. I did play more than just Pokemon ROM hacks, but I'm gonna save it because the couple games I did play quite a bit over the time period were definitely as research for this episode.
Mm-hmm.
So
very nice.
So those were wicked fun, I will say. But we'll get to that eventually. So I guess the only thing I want to let the listeners know is that we are excluding anime licenses for now, just because those absolutely could be their whole own episode. And I think there's definitely a different feeling from like a movie license or a cartoon license versus like an ongoing anime turned to game.
Yep, I agree with that. So foreshadowing for probably a future episode, so stay tuned.
Yeah, so I think the first one on the list that I wanted to definitely mention is the old PS2 Hobbit game. Now, I really enjoy. I took a look at it just to refresh my memory, because I remember really liking it as a kid. Because it's this kind of like jumping around, hack and slashy, almost Zelda-like kind of story. But it has this great storybook presentation, kind of like the first couple Harry Potter games did. And similar to that, this game came out before the movie for The Hobbit did. I think it was around the time we probably had one or two of the Lord of the Rings games, but there wasn't like a Hobbit trilogy planned at the time yet. So it was all very cartoony, and all the artwork is very storybook.
I played the Hobbit game for, I think, I don't know if I played the one for the PS2. I definitely played it for Game Boy Advance. I remember playing through, and it had a very similar like storybook feel.
Nice.
Kind of like there was like a Lord of the Rings game for Game Boy Advance that came out before the movies did, and it kind of like it's based more on the book than it is the movie franchise. So and it's pretty true to the book too, which was also nice because it's one of my favorite books. So it was cool to play through the game, shortly after I had read the book for the first time.
That's cool. Yeah, it was. That was definitely a trend in that era. The one-two punch of the PS2 and Game Boy Advance releases kind of simultaneously.
Yeah, I didn't get to enjoy that too much because I didn't have a Game Boy. I had a Game Boy Advance for, I think it was my 13th birthday. Yeah, it was my 13th birthday because the next game we're going to talk about was the first game I ever had for that, and it was a gifted to me with the console. But I didn't get a PlayStation 2 until like I was 16, so 2006. So pretty much at the end of that era, right before the PS3 came out. So I didn't get to deal some of them I got to play simultaneously because they came out for PC as well.
Yep.
Whenever I could weasel my way onto my parents' computer, I would play them.
Yeah, definitely. I remember growing up with sort of the kids' computer, and we played a lot of PC ports of console games, and then we got the PS2 in middle school. So I had it for a bit longer than you did. It was a little more in the middle of that PS2 era, which was wicked cool. But I did not play this next game.
The Return of the King. Oh, it was fantastic. It was very like RPG, but very based on the movie. Like the characters looked like the actors. They didn't make one for the Fellowship. It was just the second two movies, so Two Towers and Return of the King. Two Towers one was really good too. Just the Return of the King one I played it on PC. It just felt more polished.
Nice.
And I remember being really excited because my parents were buying a new computer, and I'm like, it needs a DVD-ROM so I can play this game.
I love it. Yep.
So, because none of the other computers would run it, and I was probably 14 or ish at the time, and like just didn't think about asking for them to buy me a PlayStation. You know what I mean? Like it just never occurred to me that it's something that I could own. So I played that on PC, and I also played it for a Game Boy Advance because it was it was gifted to me by my grandparents when I turned, I think, 13.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it was probably better on PC. Most games were.
It was really good for Game Boy too, honestly. Like it was really clean. I had no idea how to play an RPG, so like you put stats into the characters.
That's cool.
Yeah, and like the GBA version, and I just put one stat in everything because I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah. No, I meant as compared to the PS2, the PSU version was probably better. But yeah, no.
Oh, gotcha.
Playing it on a Game Boy is always wicked cool.
They played about the same.
Wherever you go.
Because I did play it on PlayStation 2 to kind of compare, and it played pretty much the same.
Sure.
Same thing with like the first couple Harry Potter ones. Like they played pretty similar. Like there were a couple of differences.
Yeah, that's just how sharp the graphics are.
Yeah, pretty much. And yeah, it was pretty minimal. It was a pretty similar experience for both.
Nice. So yeah, I definitely wanted to mention all of the James Bond games. They've kind of disappeared in recent years after a run of a few weirdly badly reviewing ones. But early on, they were like a sign of quality. Honestly, I do remember way back playing like a racing game with weapons or something like that, like 007 Racing for the PS1. But I didn't play that one too much. GoldenEye obviously is like the classic. It reinvented, it reinvented how to play first-person shooters on consoles. Like there were ports of Doom before that, but like nothing on consoles before GoldenEye was like really like it always felt like a weird it was like playing an RTS on a console. It's like, yeah, you could, but you played on the computer. But with GoldenEye, with the controls they came up with the multiplayer mode, I mean, that's where it was at. I mean, it was amazing time. I've only played the single player a little bit, to be quite honest, but I have definitely played a ton of GoldenEye multiplayer because it's really fun. It's just a really silly time. And then I remember much later playing the PS2 Nightfire game. There was another one, Agent Under Fire, that was like a year before or after, I don't remember. But Nightfire, I think, was the better one, in my opinion. And it had a really fun multiplayer, just like GoldenEye, except like you could play as Oddjob and you could throw your hat and it was like an insta kill, which was wicked funny. I think what I would always do is I would take the sniper rifle out, line up the sight, and then swap the sniper rifle out for the hat without moving the analog sticks and throw it and just snipe.
Sneaky.
But that one had a really fun single player mode, so I really liked that quite a bit. I mean, it just had all the sort of bombast and spectacle you would expect from like a Bond film. Whereas while GoldenEye was amazing, I think it was still a little bit limited by the N64. But Nightfire definitely was not. So I dig those a lot.
I'm not a real gamer. I've never played GoldenEye. It was just
I mean,
before I had, before I really got into gaming, and then by the time I did, like, it was kind of just dated, and
yeah, I mean,
I just never got into them.
I mean, it was definitely like the multiplayer game for a long while.
Yeah.
But then, then Halo came out, and it reinvented the controls for FPSs again.
Yeah. Whenever I tell anyone I haven't played it, I just get scoffed at. I'm like, sorry.
Like, I get it if you were, heavily gaming at the time and ignored it, but like,
yeah,
but I wasn't. Different.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So the next game that I remember from my childhood playing a heck ton was the Toy Story 2 game. And I think I had this for the computer, though there is a PS1 port that's pretty easy to find and download these days. And it was like you're playing Buzz Lightyear and you're going through like Andy's house, and then you're going through like a toy store, and there's just a lot of really interesting locales, and a lot of it was like sort of you were placed in a sandbox and you had like a bunch of tasks to get done, like, hey Buzz, I lost all my jigsaw pieces, or I lost, I need you to find all the Mr. Potato Head's body parts to put them back together, and you just go around exploring these worlds. But the controls were super good. The like platforming physics were great. The music was just bopping. It's a really, really fun game. It's weird how much I really like the Toy Story 2 game. Like, it's just a solid game. And I always like when you play as... I like the environment when you're like a toy and like it's just regular mundane environments, but like they're huge because you're little. I really like that. And a lot of games that have that don't also have the gameplay to back it up. But this one absolutely does.
Was it more of a because I remember Disney coming out with like platformers for like Game Boy Color. Like, I had a Monsters Inc. one game for Game Boy Color, but it wasn't really a like an action adventure game. It was like, it was platformers like Mario.
Yeah. But... So I know that the first Toy Story game, I remember wanting to play like the Genesis game that was more of a traditional platformer, but Toy Story 2 was much more of like a mission based, like kind of collect-a-thon-y,
okay.
But definitely like a mission based action adventure with just different levels to complete a set of objectives in. So it was really inspired by all the 3D platformers at the time, right? But good. It had like, you could swap into first person mode if you wanted to like use your laser. Like it just had a lot going for it. It was definitely a big action adventure.
So. Yeah, I think that translates better. Hercules was another one that came out. That was a platformer, and they were just kind of rough.
Yeah, I can see that. Like, they had a charm about them, but they were definitely like a little bit too tough and a little bit like Yeah, maybe not as polished as you'd want the gameplay to be, but despite how polished like graphics or
Hmm.
sound or whatever was. Yeah. So, uh, oh my gosh. So yeah, one game that was super polished is the Scott Pilgrim game. Now I read all the comics like very shortly before the movie came out,
I've always
or
intended to read the
or
comics
shortly
and never
shortly
did.
after maybe. Yeah, they're really good. I really like the comics, and I really like how the film, which is like such a wildly crazy like I don't know how it's such a masterpiece, but it just managed to be, because Edgar Wright directed it, right, and he did such an amazing job. And they had the comic author Brian Lee O'Malley like on set, and he was like writing stuff, and they had such crazy actors on that,
They did.
and so yeah, they knocked it out of the park with the film adaptation, and the last comic actually came out after the film, so they have different endings just because Brian Lee
Mm.
O'Malley wrote two different endings. Like he wrote a movie ending, and then he figured out what he wanted to do for the last graphic novel, and he wrote that ending. And the game is just it feels like another adaptation of the comic, not as much of a like direct adaptation of the movie or anything. It's its own beast. It's definitely got the art style of the comics, which is
Yeah, I
great.
remember that.
And it's like it's a solid classic like TMNT style beat 'em up, like four players on a left to right track where you can kind of go up and down a bit, and you just fight like hordes of randos. And it's just really well done. It's really well made. The music by Anamanaguchi is just this amazing chiptune soundtrack. It's wicked good.
Yeah, I
I
remember
really like the Halloween level has this super killer sound.
I watched people play through it. It's a game I own, but I've never actually played myself. Like it's in the backlog, you know. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, for a while there it was notorious because being a licensed title, often these games will get pulled from stores. Like I really wanted to play they tried to kind of remake GoldenEye, but they could only get so much of the license back. Like
hmm.
they could only get one of the three different license holders back. So they try to make a new version of GoldenEye with like Daniel Craig instead. And I was trying to buy it, and I got a copy, but the disc was a bit too scratched. And I was like, "Oh, I'll buy it digitally," and it's not on the digital store,
Oh,
because like the license ran out, of course. Scott Pilgrim for a little while there was like infamous for being not available if you didn't already buy it on the PS3. Now, thankfully, recently they've made the remaster,
yeah. I think the
so it's
remaster is
available
what I
again.
own.
So it's a wicked good game.
So I really like games like Zoo Tycoon, and Jurassic Park came out with Jurassic World Evolution, which it's basically, you know, Zoo Tycoon or Planet Zoo, but like with the Jurassic World license.
That's awesome.
It's so fun. My only complaint is, and I don't know if it was the game, I don't know if it was the computer, but like the tutorial was really crap. So it would give me instructions and I would go to where it tells me to go, but there was a delay and I'm like sitting there trying to figure out what to do. And then like 10 minutes later, the next part of the tutorial would trigger. And it's like, "Oh, I couldn't do this because the game wouldn't let me."
Oh, that's frustrating.
So, or didn't give me the instructions fast enough, but it's really cool. Even I bought it all on sale because it is they do kind of take the Planet Zoo route of like a bunch of DLCs, and they're not exactly inexpensive. Like there's the base game, and then I think there's two or three like expansions with like
Yep.
extra story and like in stuff, or not story necessarily, but like extra.
Campaigns or something,
Yeah,
right?
campaigns is probably the best uh, word for
Descriptor.
it. Yep.
Cool.
But and then they also have like dinosaur packs. And some really gimmicky skin packs. It's like, okay, like I'm not gonna buy those, but it's a lot of fun. They just came out with the sequel. I haven't played the sequel because I haven't. I've probably put, I don't know, maybe 100 or so hours into the base game. but I feel like I haven't really gone through it all yet, so I'm still playing through that before I get the sequel. But it came out, I think, earlier this year.
That's cool. That's
Yeah,
cool.
it's a lot of fun. I mean, dinosaurs are cool, so.
Yeah, I'm definitely pushing the no anime boundary right on the edge
It's
with my
this
next
one
pick
is an
here.
anime.
Well, so it is and it isn't. It is in for many perspectives, like for many ways, and it isn't in others. It doesn't have a lot of the like. Anyway, the Legend of Korra game. I really this game gets shit on, and I want to defend it a little bit because I really do like this game. I think it's really fun. I think it is better than the Avatar games that came before it for sure. And this one also gets like randomly becomes unavailable at different points. I don't even know if it's on sale right now or not. But the Legend of Korra game is just action adventure, very linear story. Takes place after season 2. And it's a wicked fun game. I will say there's a weird difficulty curve where they teach you how to block the like giant mechs, and the game does a really bad job at telling you how to do the mech fights. So I would just, and there's been several times because I'll put it down and I'll pick it up and play it again at some other point, and I'll have completely forgotten how to fight the mechs, and the game does a bad job at telling you how to time the parry or whatever. But with the exception of that one difficulty spike, it's actually really fun. Just sort of martial arts, beat 'em up. You get to switch between Korra's different bendings. You can swap, fire and water bending and earth bending and all that.
What
There's just
system
like a
was
lot
it
of.
for?
Um, it was for like the PS3 360, I want to say, and there was a PS4 version.
Okay.
So I know that it was like that era where it was kind of
They would release one for everything.
right. Yeah. While we were still transitioning between the sixth and the seventh and eighth generations, so it was PS3 and 4, Xbox 360 and 1. But yeah, I like it a lot. I think it was fun. I think it gets frustrating right in the middle, and then it's fine again.
This is one I definitely skipped. I always hesitate when something is like based strictly on a movie or something because they do have a tendency to be piss poor.
Yeah.
You know.
Thankfully, because I know the Avatar ones were like, oh, it's based on book 1. It's based on book 2. This one was like it's between seasons 2 and 3. So like they did a paper thin story that explains why her bending is, they got to do the Metroid thing of, oh, all your powers are gone. You got to reclaim them slowly over time so we can tutorialize them, right? So they have a paper thin story of why her powers get blocked. She bumps into chi blockers again.
Oh no.
Something like that. So
Damn chi blockers.
Always blocking dem cheese.
Yep. I mean, I like it when licensed games are good because, obviously nobody wants to play a bad game, but it's nice to play something with like familiar characters and a familiar environment.
But something new with them. Yeah.
Yeah. And especially for like a TV show. Like, I can't think of really. Maybe there were a couple of good like SpongeBob games that I think I played as a kid, but like for the most part, they weren't very good.
No, I think I'm remembering a few SpongeBob games in my childhood too, and yeah, especially like the Game Boy ones. If they weren't SpongeBob, I probably wouldn't have continued playing them.
Exactly, yeah. I played a couple for the PC. I don't remember which ones.
Yeah.
When I was, probably an early teen that I remember liking, but I also remember playing some that were just not good. Like they looked weird. I just don't think they have a good reputation. I don't know if you ever played the Jackass game for PS2.
I haven't.
It's bad. Like, it's so bad. It's so anything, especially that's like a TV show, or might not have because obviously there's no plot to the Jackass show. It's just
of course. I will say I kind of wonder why they even bothered to make a Jackass game specifically, considering how many of the Jackass personalities ended up in the Tony Hawk games. Like Tony Hawk games started turning into
yeah. Well,
for a little while there.
It was basically like if I remember, it was basically like Tony Hawk but more chaos.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you're doing stunts and you have to, you know, get through, like, do things in a certain order or something. I didn't play it for very long, so I'm shaky on the memory. But like it played kind of like a Tony Hawk game, just with,
Okay.
like, you know, shopping
Without
carts
yeah,
and
without the
stuff.
skating.
Yes, yeah. But you're right. Yeah, there were a lot of I'm sure like Johnny Knoxville and Steve-O probably just wanted to be in a video game.
Oh, of course.
Like,
Yeah,
I'm
that
sure
make,
someone was like, "Do you want to do this?" And they're like, "Hell yeah!" Like, why wouldn't we? And then it was just a thing, and it was awful.
yeah. It's funny.
Let's see. So, um,
Yeah.
the Alien Isolation game was excellent. It was like a
Is that
survival horror. The survival
is
horror
that the one that
one.
came out a couple of years ago with the scanner?
I don't remember. It's been a while since I played it. I think it came out several years ago. Hold on.
Okay. I think because if I'm remembering right, this is the one that like you can optionally turn on a mode that lets the game listen to your microphone. Like, so if you're making a lot of noise, the alien hears you.
This one came out in 2014.
That sounds right. So it's for the PS4.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
played it on PS4, but it was such a long I haven't played it in a long time. It was like, I think I played it on release. I don't even think I finished it. It was one I definitely watched a lot of other people play more than I played it myself.
Hmm.
But I like survival horror games, and this was a really, and I'm glad it was good too, because, you know, Alien kind of popularized that type of movie, I would say. So to have a game, you know, kind of like Silent Hill-esque, but alien, you know, in space, it was really cool. And
Yeah, I
that
think
was
I
a
watched
lot
the
of
Let's
fun.
Play, and it gave me a lot of anxiety.
Yeah, oh my god, I love watching people play. Like, I like playing survival horror games, but I think I like seeing other people's reactions better. Like, I watched a playthrough of, like, one of my favorite, like, YouTube videos ever is this guy sitting in, like a Discord channel playing through Amnesia with his friends and just freaking out. And, like, his friends are just making fun of him. And, like, the most iconic is, like, you just hear someone in the chat, "Oh, I found a bag of Milky Ways," and then just shrieking from the person, like, playing. Like, you can hear them throw down their headset and just walk away, and you can still hear them screaming in the background. And it's just the best. Like, his reactions are the best, and it's not even a full walkthrough. It's just like a 10-minute video, but, like, I
That's
love
great.
watching people's reactions.
Well, it's a lot like watching a horror film where you're like, no, don't
Yeah.
do that. Why would you do that? Right? You have no culpability because you're not the one in control.
And I'm such a baby when it comes to jump scares too.
Yeah, same.
Like, I jumped during Finding Nemo, like a mile, and I remember that vividly because my mom was making fun of me because we were there with my, like, very young sister at the time. And I'm like, yeah, and I still, like, my boyfriend will come around the corner, like, I'll see him and then jump. Because I'm such a baby, but I still like, I guess maybe I just like to torture myself. So I watched a lot of Alien Isolation Let's Plays.
That's funny. That's cool. Yeah, I've heard many good things about that game.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So I wanted to call out the Matrix games. So I have a copy of the Matrix Online sitting on my shelf just for funsies, but you totally can't play it anymore. And
I
I didn't
forgot
play
that
it.
that was a thing.
I didn't play it back in the day. It like was the canonical continuation of the storyline. Um, like for quite a few years, it went on and people were digging it. I never played it though. I had a lot of friends who played many of the MMOs and they tried it for a little while. Um, Now, the one I think people will remember the most is Enter the Matrix, which they shot like 40 minutes of extra footage while they were making the second and third films. So they basically made like 2.5 movies, like in a span of a year. And the extra 40 minutes was all cutscenes for the Enter the Matrix game. And I've seen them and they're really cool and they do add a lot to the sort of lore of things, but they're not great games to play. Enter the Matrix is kind of notoriously not that great a game, but it's
Yeah.
got a lot of really cool lore and content, and it has some good ideas for sure. And I think they took a lot of those good ideas and they polished the heck out of it. And they threw out some things that didn't work, and they put in some things that definitely worked for when they made the Matrix Path of Neo. Um, and like it says on the tin, you play as Neo. But it just goes through like almost alternate version of events that's more gamified. Like you go through a bunch of training by sort of and I love when they jack into their like training simulations. It's kind of like how it's almost holodecky, right? They can just create anything
Mm-hmm.
to train themselves, and like you go through a bunch of like classic like martial arts and samurai film homages as training sequences. Like one of them is in black and white and you're a samurai. It's really cool. And so you go through the training sequences. You go through. I don't think you go through the first film at all. I don't remember. I think you go through a lot of stuff between the first and second film that fills in some like characters that Neo has to save and this and that, and then it goes through the second and third films. And again, I think it's got like a mission based thing where you can pick through a bunch of missions. Like you decide what order to go in. Um, Looking at the city, there's like the fight at the vampire club and all that. Like it is a really fun game. I really like the gunplay, really like the martial arts in it. I think they just did a stellar job, and obviously it's got slow motion. It's got to have slow motion because it's the Matrix.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I was going to recommend a Matrix game, 1,000%, the Path of Neo is the one to play. It's just really good. And I remember, I think my favorite moment in that game is you're in the Merovingian's mansion, the French asshole, right? And you end up going through a door, and it takes you to this area that's like an MC Escher, like upside down, sideways universe, and you're fighting like giant ants, and it's super like weird. And it just, I don't know. There's a lot of moments in that game that's just like, oh, this is crazy, but this like expands upon like the what ifs that the Matrix universe kind of just puts in your head, right? So that was really really cool. But
I
yeah,
think I played Enter the Matrix, and that I think because I just looked at the covers, and I think I'm pretty sure I can see it from over here. I own one of them, and I think it's Enter the Matrix because I remember picking it up because at the time, had like so I didn't watch the Matrix movies until like almost a decade after they came out in like what 2000.
the first film came out in '99, and
Yeah.
then the second and third both came out in, I want to say, '03.
I categorically was not allowed to watch anything like that until I was like, I don't know, 18 probably.
Yeah,
And
I definitely shouldn't have seen The Matrix as the 11-year-old I was, but I
yeah,
was at a
oh
friend's
god,
house
yeah.
on a sleepover,
That's how
and
I saw
it was
Gladiator.
it was the first time I ever saw a DVD in person. Um,
Well, and it's funny too because I had just watched. So this is probably like 2007, 2008 because I remember I was working at GameStop, and it was
mm,
back when GameStop sold DVDs, and then decided like it was like a hot minute, and then they decided no, we're not doing this anymore. So the
yeah.
DVDs were like, buy four get four free or something. So I bought so many DVDs, and like I bought like like all the things that like I could buy, but like with my own money, like I could go home and watch them,
Yeah,
and like it
that's
wouldn't,
cool.
like it was a way around what my parents would allow me to watch. And I remember watching the Matrix movies and like obviously being obsessed with them and really liking
Sure.
them. And so I saw, the Matrix game on the shelf. I don't know if I probably saw Path of Neo there at some point, but
Sure, but Enter the Matrix was, it was Niobe and it was Ghost and it was like a secret extra part of the
yeah,
story. And like Path of Neo, looking at it on the shelf, you're like, oh, it's just a licensed game, a retelling of the movies. I don't want a retelling, I want the extra story,
I
right?
remember being disappointed.
Yeah,
Distinctly
I mean,
remember
it,
being disappointed by it.
legitimately, I would not have assumed that the Neo one would have been the good one, but it totally is. And yeah, Enter the Matrix
That's
was,
probably why I never played it because I did play the other one and was like, well, if the first like the other one's not good, like this one's not going to be any good.
yeah.
So, but yeah, it's funny how that works out sometimes.
Absolutely. Uh,
Um,
yeah. So we get a couple superhero titles in here.
I love superhero games. Even before like the Marvel like you movie franchises, I got into comics before I got into video games. Like I've been a Batman fan since I was like 5.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah. And like I remember some of the best games in like the arcade, like the X-Men games, like the X-Men beat 'em up, and like the X Marvel versus Capcom games,
oh,
like were
those are so
amazing.
good.
Yeah, they
Yep.
were such good,
That was
such a
the
good time.
most expensive original Xbox game. It might still be. I remember there was like a copy of it on the shelf for like months and months because it was like 70 or 80 bucks or something like that. Like it was really expensive.
Whoa, was it like a special edition?
I don't know if they didn't make that many copies of it or if it was just hard to find or
Oh,
I have
gotcha.
no idea. But I just remember the few copies I have seen of it all were very expensive. The original one for
Yeah.
Xbox because I think they've come out with a couple cents.
Oh yeah, and since before
Yeah, well,
around.
and then DC did the franchise like the Mortal Kombat versus DC game
Hmm.
too, which was really really good. So it was like two of my favorite things: Mortal Kombat and Batman.
That's
Um,
cool.
but I remember one of the first ones I ever played was Marvel Ultimate Alliance, and I loved it. It's just because like the range of characters that there are, and I'd never played a game like that before. Because this is before I played like Diablo or anything like that. Like I was really just getting into games.
Mm.
And I got it for the 360. I know that it didn't come with my 360, but it was packaged with like a 360. So you
Yeah.
got that, and I think it was either Lego Indiana Jones or Forza. I don't remember which one.
Yeah.
Um,
So okay, yeah. So the Ultimate Alliance game was kind of like that Gauntlet Legends, like top-down many characters
yeah, like
action
an
kind of game.
ARPG. Yeah, it's like an ARPG.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah,
Um,
I should I keep meaning to play this one because I actually have a friend who he actually worked on this game.
oh,
It was
that's
one of
really
the
cool.
yeah, it was one of the few games he worked on in the industry before getting into teaching. So
I don't
I
know where
keep
you
meaning
can
to.
get the first one anymore. I don't know if it ever had like a PC. Like there's 3 of them now. I don't know. I haven't played the last 2. I only played the first one.
Yeah,
I don't know how you would even play it. Like I don't know where it's available. I think I
yeah.
still own it, but my 360 no longer works. So, and it's
Oh yeah,
I mean it probably still works, but I lost
yeah.
the power cable for it.
Huh. I
It
wonder if it's
disappeared.
wonder if it's on the one backwards compatibility list because a few original Xbox
Oh,
games
maybe.
are.
Yeah.
Yeah, not sure. Um, Might be one of those license things because that backwards compatibility list is limited to what they can relicense.
But
So
that was their bread and butter. Like that was
yeah.
Microsoft's bread and butter for a while because they packaged it with like a holiday bundle.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they
Cool.
did Microsoft for like every holiday for a couple of years. They had like different packages. So like I think mine was like I got Kung Fu Panda with mine. I don't remember what else it came with. Um oh,
That's
actually
good.
that was a decent game now that I'm thinking about it.
That's cool.
Never would have played it if it hadn't come with my 360, but I want to say it was like I don't remember what else it came with. But it was like 2 discs you got. And so I would imagine that maybe it would still be available in the Xbox store. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean the Jet Set Radio Future was also a pack-in game for an Xbox, and that was definitely not available. So
Yeah.
you never know.
Yeah, I have no
But
idea. Oh, that's
oh
true.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But
Um, but it was a lot of fun. The story was really good from what I remember. And it was just, I think it was, I mean, I know video, like, here, it's like superhero games obviously existed before this, but it's the first, like, big one that I remember. And there might be other big ones, but that's just maybe, yeah, with like a
yeah.
lot of,
Oh
it was
oh
like
yeah.
the Avengers
Every
before the
generation.
Avengers came
Yeah,
to,
every generation had a bunch of decent
mhm.
ones, but that was definitely a big one for sure. Then I guess the oh man, our next pick here is amazing. So the
So good.
Batman. the Batman Arkham games have been just so good.
Hmm.
Now, to be fair, I've only played the first couple, and I am super excited to try Gotham Knights coming
That
out.
I did the
Um,
first three, I think. Asylum,
City,
City, and I forgot what the other one
I
was
think it's
called.
Knight.
Yeah, I played all three of those. I
Now,
played.
Arkham Knight had the Batmobile, right? It had like the crazy tumbler Batmobile.
I think so, maybe.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't
I think
remember.
so. Arkham Asylum and City were both pretty similar. I will say
They did play very similar.
I like the atmosphere of the Asylum a little better, but I do really like. I think there was plenty of upgrades and like polishing improvements in City to
Yeah,
like make it worthwhile to play on its own for sure.
yeah.
I love the detective mode. I know, you know, nobody. It's probably not a great game to like watch a let's play of just because of how often you just switch to detective mode all the time. I know that I think they in the second and maybe third game they like limited how long you could be in detective mode for so that people wouldn't just like play the whole game with the x-ray vision on
Yep.
like but yeah, those games were wicked fun. And it's
Yeah.
funny because like a lot of superhero games like tried to kind of emulate it like afterwards, like they're
Hmm.
like, oh my gosh, it just shook up the superhero game formula.
I still don't know how those only got a T rating because, like, I know Batman didn't quote unquote kill them, but like, you had that cam where like you would like show their no was that yeah it was like a cam where like you could kind of like see. No, it was detective mode. Like you would, because I remember playing it, and I definitely remember being like, their bones would be broken. Like they're on the ground, they're not getting up. Like they're dead.
Yeah,
Like you can't fool me. Like they're dead. Batman did murder.
well, they're
Um,
sleeping.
they're sleeping. Yeah, they're
It's
just
sleepy time.
unconscious, and it's like
Yeah,
no.
no,
I just like I
no.
understand why they wanted to keep the T rating
Oh, of
because
course, way more
like
money.
more money, bigger market. Also, I'm sure it's game a lot of. Although I would argue that they're dark. Like I don't probably think anyone under the age of like 13 should be playing them.
No.
But if you give it that T title, it becomes more accessible for people for
Yeah,
kids.
absolutely.
But they were dark. They were edgy. They were really good. They had a lot of good cameos. Like I said, like I'm a huge Batman fan. So, I like the animated series was my favorite show when I was a little kid. I mean, we're
Oh,
talking
I
like
mean,
6 or 7. So
it's such
it's
a good
so
show. it
good.
it holds up as
It still
probably
does.
my favorite version of
Hmm.
Batman. The show and the show's movie, Mask of the Phantasm, like
Yeah,
the best Batman
they're all good, and
incarnation.
it definitely had that like dark vibe because I think
Yeah,
I don't know.
so it wasn't crazy dark, but it was, moody and atmospheric, and they painted all the colors on black
Oh
cells
yeah,
instead of on white. Like they gave it that like that the what's it they called it,
grimy
like dark
feel.
noir, where it was
Hmm.
like ambiguously modern and 40s at the same
Yeah,
time, and like, it didn't. I don't know. It was good.
it
It
was
was really
yeah,
really good.
and I think that the Arkham games are darker than
Oh yeah, much darker.
yeah, they're much darker, but
Yeah, they're a lot more like sort of the 80s 90s Batman stories
yeah,
where things were just a lot grittier. I mean,
yeah,
because all of comics was at the time, um, and
hmm,
like to the point of absolute cringe sometimes.
yeah,
Grim Dark 90s is really bad,
yep.
but it doesn't push that as far as
No,
that, but
it's really
it's definitely darker.
I really enjoyed them. I think I played them both on 360. Um,
Nice.
and I think I played the third one on PC, if I remember
Hmm.
correctly.
Well, I think PC was the only way to play it without a ton of bugs and lag. The third game, because the third game was, I think, it came out around the time of the PS4 and Xbox One launch, so it
That
was
like era where
really
games
buggy.
just didn't come
Yeah, well, yeah,
finished.
it
Like
was
this, the start of that really bad.
it was really bad launch.
Yeah.
And the PC version, like, it had the same issues, but like only if you ran a computer as weak as the consoles. So
Mm.
most people were fine. Um, but then the other big superhero we're going to talk about is Spider-Man. Now, I gotta say, every Spider-Man game I've played has been pretty great. I played the PS1 Spider-Man game. I don't know if I played the PS1 Spider-Man game. I'm pretty sure I have. So I played the Dreamcast version of it,
Nice.
which is nicer visuals, a little bit cleaner audio, no, PS1 texture warping. And it has like Stan Lee's voiceover, like, you gotta go and save the people now, Spider-Man. And actually had Bruce Campbell. It had Bruce Campbell voice cameo, and I don't think the Spider-Man movie had come out yet. I'm not sure. So like the Sam Raimi connection wouldn't have been made to make Bruce Campbell in it. I'm not really sure. Anyway, I know that they made a bunch of good movie tie-ins for all the movies, but I think the one that's on everyone's radar is the one made by Insomniac, the guys who made Ratchet and Clank. The Insomniac Spider-Man game and its follow-up Miles Morales are just so good. They just play so well. Like swinging through the city is amazing. I don't know, just the crazy acrobatics that you can do in that game. It makes you feel like it makes you feel like Spider-Man, like 1,000%.
I heard
I don't
people
know.
compare it to the Spider-Man 2 game for the
Yeah,
PS2, that it was just really. I haven't played either. I don't really know why. I just haven't.
yeah. I mean, they're solid. They're really solid games. They're really fun games. I like how the Insomniac Spider-Man game has Peter more at like his sort of college age, like after school. Like he's not in school anymore. He's a young adult, like starting out his career as a scientist, working with Dr. Octavius and that sort of thing. But it's weird. I know, Spider-Man's the teenage superhero, but I always like when they tell stories about Spider-Man when he's just like a little bit older,
Yeah.
like college age Spider-Man, early 20s Spider-Man. That's always my thing, and that's definitely where the story is in this. So, and because it's a Doc Ock story, so it's got Spider-Man 2 vibes for sure.
Very nice. Maybe I'll pick that one up. I still have my PS4. It's still hooked up even.
Cool. Okay, so I gotta talk about this here is a game that I played a while ago, and I didn't like it at the time. It's the Doctor Who The Eternity Clock. There was a PS3 downloadable title. Have you ever played the Trine games? These side-scrolling. Well, it gave me some vibes of that, but it's just mostly because it's a side-scrolling 2.5D, like 3D but side-scrolling platformer with a bunch of puzzles and a bunch of doors to unlock and that sort of thing. But I replayed it, and I had a lot of fun actually with the Eternity Clock. It's not, it's full of bugs. It definitely is. It probably had more bugs at release for sure, and I was probably frustrated by them. But it's really cool to go back to playing a Matt Smith as the Doctor and River Song story, now that like that's not the current Doctor. To go back and experience this sort of side story, but it's fully voice acted by the actors. It's a cute, harmless thing. I will say one thing that I was really impressed by was the way they used some of the sort of Doctor Who monsters. Was really cool. Like they have the Silurians, the sort of the lizard people who were, Earth's inhabitants before people showed up. They did that really cool. They had some Daleks thing here, some Cyberman things. But the one that was really cool was the Silence. And if you don't remember, they're like...
I sure do.
The creepy monsters that make you forget them. And what was awesome is there's a section in the game where you have to go and fetch the sonic screwdriver, but you have to like cross this whole area that's full of silence. And it's a reverse stealth game. So like the whole time you're going through, you have to keep an eye on at least one silent the whole time. Like if you look away, like it'll disappear behind you. So you have to always have one in your sight at all times, or you'll forget the whole thing, and they'll grab you or whatever. Like it just resets. Like you just get a game over if you for a few seconds are not looking at a single silent. It's really cool. I've never seen a reverse stealth section in the game before, so I thought that was really clever. Really,
I,
really clever.
I'm shocked I'd never heard of this game because I am a huge Doctor Who fan, and especially like 2012, Lindsay, huge into Doctor Who. Um, yeah, I was like obsessed with it, and I had no idea this game or this one or the one you're about to talk about too. I had no
Yeah.
idea.
Now,
I've
it
never
is
even seen a copy.
yeah. I don't know if it ever had a physical release. I
It
think
did.
it's
I
a.
just looked it up.
Oh, okay.
They're
I
very
think
expensive.
yeah. Well, they probably didn't make a lot of them. I think I've only ever seen it digital. So that probably explains why the physical copy is so pricey. My goodness. Yeah. It's cool. It is you can play co-op. I played with the AI partner. And as always, if there's an AI partner in a game, it can be co-op. Sometimes
It
it's you're
does
waiting
weird
on the
things.
AI. Sometimes it's kind of buggy, and sometimes the game just cheats and teleports the character, and it's like way easier than if it was a person. So you get that balance
Yep.
of swapping a co-op partner for an AI. Um, so
I'm gonna have
yeah,
to
the
check that
next
one out.
yeah. So the other Doctor Who game that I have some decent experience with is the Doctor Who Edge of Time. This is a VR game that was for the PSVR and the Oculus Quest. Although they did recently sort of remake and expand it into Edge of Reality. So that is sort of a flat game, regular style game that you can play. And yeah, it's a 13th Doctor, Jodie Whittaker storyline. Although she doesn't show up too often, it's like you're some rando character who stumbled into crazy situations and the TARDIS, and she's off somewhere doing something to help protect the world from this thing that you've stumbled into, but she talks to you over like the hologram in the TARDIS. So you see her holographic head and she's like, all right, so what we're gonna do today um, and it's a really fun game. I don't know how the sort of the experience of playing it flat is, but being able to pick up like the sonic screwdriver and solve all these puzzles in VR is so cool. And it can get pretty terrifying because there's a moment where you have to go into this like old London mansion and you have to go into a cellar to retrieve something, but the cellar is full of angels.
Oh no.
And so there's a moment where you're in an elevator and you're going up this elevator and it stops and all the lights flicker and you have to go run up to like a breaker box and like keep the lights on, like try to get the lights back working, the electricity working. Meanwhile, there's two hallways to your left and right, and you have to like dart your eyes left and right to keep an eye on the angels so they don't get too close to you.
Oh wow.
It can get absolutely scary. It's really good.
I can't even imagine that in VR. This one I'm sure I didn't hear of because I don't own any VR headsets or anything.
Yep. Yep.
So I don't
Yeah,
really keep up with that. So that one it makes sense how I missed it.
yeah. Although, yeah, they did recently come out with that sort of expanded, sort of non-VR version. I just didn't hear a lot of fanfare for it because I think a lot of people got confused. I think that they just, the name Edge of Time and Edge of Reality, it's like not enough to tell people like this is the VR version, this is the not VR version. So I don't, you know what I mean? I don't know if people like really got, which one was which. So yeah, Edge of Time for the VR systems and Edge
I guess it wouldn't
of
be
Reality.
Doctor Who if it wasn't confusing.
Timely-wimely, wibbly-wobbly. Exactly. But yeah, so I really like the game. It's really good. I don't know how it plays outside of VR, but it's stellar in it.
I might find out because it's available on Steam.
Heck yeah.
So
Cool. And then so the other sci-fi series I am definitely a huge fan of, and I know you are, is Star Trek. There's two games, and there's tons of Star Trek games.
I've never played a Star Trek game. I've never
Like
even played Star Trek Online.
Yeah, Star Trek Online is huge, and I know a lot of Trekkies love it because there's all this lore from different time periods that like it's basically created, and that like a lot of the new shows have just like been like, yep, that lore that you know from the online game, we're just gonna use that. And it's like, whoa, okay. a little like Matrix Online, where like they're like, yeah, this is canon. I'm sure that there's a line where they're like, well, we're gonna do what the shows and movies demand, but you know, they're at least respecting most of the canon from those. That so it's really
Nice.
cool. But and I know over the years, yeah, there's been a ton of like RTS games where you're commanding spaceships and stuff, which has been really cool. I know that there's been some old school adventure games like on like the NES where like you're playing Kirk and stuff, but um, the game I grew up playing was Star Trek Voyager Elite Force on PC. I know that there is a PS2 version, which is apparently somewhat different and not as good. But the PC version is like a standard, like early aughts Quake 3 Arena engine based shooter. But it's all Star Trek Voyager themed, and they got a ton. They got, I think, almost all of the original voice cast except maybe 709 to do the characters. Like, there's a bunch of Tuvok in there because you're part of like a new security team called the Elite Force, and like you like train and are led by Tuvok because he's the security officer. And yeah, they just come up with this new storyline where like the ship gets thrown into some crazy, weird, different part of space, and um, I don't know. It's fun. I will say some of the parts of the game are absolute bullshit.
Yeah.
And if you're playing it today, and you want to go through the story mode, just turn on cheats because they're such fun cheats. Because it's that old Quake style game where you hit the tilde key and you type in a bunch of SV cheats on one, and then you just type a whole bunch of cheat commands. So there's a ton of really fun cheats anyway. Um, and I know that there's like a holodeck mode, and one of my favorite things about the holodeck mode is that there is a Captain Proton like set of like 2 or 3 levels for Captain Proton, the like hollow novel that Tom Paris wrote. So it's all in black and white, and you get like like the laser gun, which is just wicked fun. I really like Voyager, and it's just like another episode.
That's
Um,
cool.
yeah, and then so the other game that I played, and I played from start to finish in like the past week or two, um, was they made a tie-in game. It was just called Star Trek. They made a tie-in game for the like 2009 onwards, like Kelvinverse movie franchise.
Hmm.
Um, was it Chris Pine? I think is the
Yeah,
actor who
yeah, yeah,
plays
yeah.
Kirk in those.
Hmm.
Yeah. So they made a game just called Star Trek, and I picked it up thinking, oh, this will be a laugh. It'll be terrible or whatever. And I expected it to be a direct adaptation of the film, like the first one, but no, actually, surprise, surprise. Um, Paramount was like super involved. They decided to pen a completely new script. It's a completely original story that takes place like after Into Darkness, but before Beyond.
Oh, interesting.
So it's just like this missing film where the crew of the Kelvinverse, Enterprise goes on takes on the Gorn, and it's really good. And it's like this very I don't know, Mass Effecty, Uncharted-y, Ratchet and Clanky kind of adventure game where you're shooting things and solving puzzles, and there's like a whole co-op thing to it where you can play as Kirk and Spock. Again, I played it just on my own. Although I totally want to replay it in co-op because that sounds like a lot of fun, and I'm totally down to playing this game again. Um, but yeah, there's a bunch of actions where like you have to use your tricorders to hack things, and every once in a while, like there's a two player like hack game, but there's just like a lot of hacking mini games and a
Hmm.
lot of just small upgrades you can do um, to your tricorder and to your phasers, and like
Interesting. That's
it's
pretty
really
cool.
good. It's really interesting, and one of the things that's nice is like the Gorn have this crazy like serum that they're injecting in people to make them go mad, right? So you've got like roided up Starfleet officers running at you,
Oh no.
and you get bonus point, like you get bonus commendations every level if you exclusively stun Starfleet officers. If you never kill a Starfleet officer, because you can stun them and run up and hit them in the head, and then you go and you like use the kill setting on the Gorn instead. And yeah, you get a commendation for like doing the
Oh, that's
Starfleet thing
cool.
and just stunning your fellow comrades instead of. So I really liked the tricorder stuff. Reminded me a little bit of sort of the Arkham Asylum detective mode where everything kind of goes a little bit X-ray vision for you, and you can do a bunch of neat things. So, yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. I didn't think so. I thought I was picking up trash just to laugh at, and it was like a really good game. So I recommend the Star Trek game for
Nice.
PS3 360. I don't think it's on anything backward compatible, so you think you
Probably
have to play it
not.
on original hardware, um, or like new emulators or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. It was good. It was really really good. So I've had some good luck with Star Trek games, but I haven't played a ton of them. Um, I have played a ton of Star Wars games.
I played
uh,
a handful of them.
Yeah, I remember as a kid I played Jedi Outcast a lot, and Jedi Outcast reminds me a lot of Star Trek Voyager Elite Force, and that's like a kind of like a Quake 3 era shooter. You have like the tilde key to turn on cheats, except Jedi Outcast you have there was a cheat where you could like increase the amount of realism in the dismemberment, because like usually when you're using the lightsaber, every once in a while like maybe there's like a 1% chance that like the stormtrooper's arm falls off, but usually it doesn't. Usually they just die. But you can change that setting all the way up to like 20, and like individual fingers will like shave off of them.
Oh wow.
It's ridiculous. And it's such like a early aughts game where there's like a ton of slow motion. Again, that's also a setting you can change with the cheats console about how often things go into slow motion. But usually, like, 1 out of 4 deaths will be in slow motion, or if you like force dodge like a sniper rifle fire, it'll go into slow motion to show you that you dodged. But it's just mostly just kind of a solid. It was a really fun story, and there's some total BS moments of like platforming in a first-person shooter. But I do like the characters. I like Kyle Katarn. I think he was really cool, like gray Jedi kind of thing. And there was a section where you like hang out with Luke Skywalker to take down some dark troopers.
Nice.
So that was cool. And I know, so you've played, and I definitely have played it.
Yes.
You've also played the sequel, Academy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So.
I remember playing it. I don't remember. I don't even remember what I played it on, but I know I played it because I distinctly remember it. And I mean, especially for a game as old as it is, I think it still it aged pretty well. Like you could pick up Jedi Academy today and feel pretty good about how it plays. And especially like one of my first experiences with a Star Wars game was Star Wars Episode 1 for PC, and that was not good.
Well, wait, which one? The pod racing game?
No. Just the it was like a game based on the movie.
Oh, I totally did not. I mean, it makes sense that they made one. I just totally didn't realize that they had made one.
It's not good. And I don't know if it was not good because of my like maybe if I went to go back and play it, but it was like one of the very first video games I ever played on my own, and I don't think I could get past the first level.
Oh gosh, gotcha. Yeah, I was about to say because like the episode 1 game I played was the pod racing game.
I don't like racing games, so I didn't enjoy that one.
Oh, totally fair. It's a really good racing game. If you're into racing games, like it's one of my favorite. It plays a lot like Wipeout or F-Zero or that style of like futuristic hover racers. I just remember really liking the announcers and like the cutscenes and all the like alien taunts. It gets hard. I also like the fact that like you like buy parts to upgrade, and like you can either buy parts directly from from inside the shop, or like you can try your hand at bartering like the back alley to see if you can get better deals. Usually it was like cheaper parts, but they have like more trade-offs. Like, that was kind of neat. I did like that game. I will say the game that was definitely more polished was they had a bunch of space sims back in the 90s. Like it was X-Wing, it was TIE Fighter, and then it was the third game was X-Wing versus TIE Fighter. And those were really solid space sim game, like space shooters. And they've made one recently. They made a brand new one called Star Wars Squadrons, and it's really good. I haven't finished it. It's got like a whole storyline that's pretty decent. Like, I think it takes place sort of after the originals. and it's like a whole plot line about traitors to the someone's a defects to the other side, and but it's a really just competent space shooter. And that's a game that you can play in either regular mode or in VR, and I do like the VR mode.
Oh my gosh.
There's a couple missions that are definitely too much motion. That like I wouldn't recommend. There's a couple of levels that I would not recommend most people play because they're just a little bit barfy. But it's so cool to play it that way. That like I don't know, if you have your VR sea legs, like, oh my god,
oh my gosh, I don't get motion sick, but like I'm not huge on space sims anyway. Like the Star Wars games, I like, the Old Republics, the like the RPGs, I really like.
Oh, I never played any of the KOTOR games, the Knights of the Old Republic.
They're very good.
Those are BioWare, right?
Yeah, I believe. Yeah. Now that I think about it, which is probably why I like them, because I love BioWare.
They're like classic Western RPG, tons of choices, lots of story.
That makes a lot of sense now that I think about it. I mean, Dragon Age is like one of my favorite like series ever.
Those are wicked well regarded. I think they're gonna remake or remaster or like make a new one at some point soon. I think they like cool. Early announced something like that.
Yeah. I definitely understand the appeal of space sims, but I tried to play Elite Dangerous recently, and I thought I was gonna throw up.
Oh, okay.
I was just spinning in space.
Would not be for you.
Yeah, no. Yeah. I have some spatial awareness issues, so like anything moving in space, like
normal people get spatial awareness issues in those games just because you can be upside down and backwards, and you're like, where is the enemy?
I can't do it. I can't do it. I just.
Yeah, every time I play, I have to be all Ender's Game and like, all right, the enemy is down. The enemy is down. To remember.
Like I've even watched other people play it, and I don't understand. Like, power to anybody who can understand how to do that, because I can't. I just it's not in my wheelhouse. So I've never played any of those, and I never will.
Yeah, I mean, I will say I've played a few here and there. They can get really complicated, and they can get like really intense because you're getting shot at from every direction and your objectives are here and there.
Yeah.
I will say the thing I like about playing Squadrons in VR is that I can look around, like I can look to the left and right and above me, like in the cockpit. So I don't have, because you're already using both sticks for like all the directions. So like you don't have another stick to spare to turn your head.
The stick.
Right. So it is a little bit easier to keep track of things when you can move your head around. Better. But like, so the level that I think that is a little bit, most of the levels where you're just in space are absolutely fine. It's the levels where there's like a space dock, so there's like a point of reference. Those can get queasy because like you're upside, like there's an orientation that you're wrong against, and those are a bit much. I will say.
You can have those.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
I'll stick to Battlefront.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed sort of a less barfy game. I really enjoyed the Force Unleashed games. I didn't play the second one a lot. I played the first one a ton because I played that. It was like the first game I got for my PlayStation Portable, and then I think I played the like full fat console release later. And Jedi Fallen Order feels a lot like it, except Fallen Order has a lot of Dark Souls design in like most of the places that you visit. Mm-hmm. Like the map will like loop back around on itself, so like you unlock shortcuts back to everything, kind of like the traveling through the Dark Souls world. And like the enemies respawn if you go to like, and I forget what the Jedi game calls it, but they're basically bonfires. They're basically, you sit down, you heal yourself, and then all the enemies respawn. So like, you're basically, right? You're basically saying, I'm going to restart to my checkpoint, but you don't lose anything, right? You just reset everything, all the health everywhere. And there's like, there's a lot of like Uncharted-y style climbing around and traversing worlds. You unlock different ponchos because Fallen Order, Cal Kestis, I think is his name. the Jedi character. He's a poncho wearing guy, and he's got the most adorable little droid with him
Nice.
that he can use on he can use to traverse zip lines, which is really cool. So I really like that game. It did just get a teaser for its eventual sequel, which I'm excited about. So those are kind of more traditional, run around adventure games that I liked.
Yeah, those are the ones that I enjoy.
Heck yeah!
I think Star Wars has a lot of really good, like adventure RPG games.
It's a license you can just do so much with. That's why it's so nice that there's like so much variation in the types of games made, from like a racing game to a space sim to a regular adventure-y game.
And arguably, the plot line for a lot of the video games are better than the last 3 movies.
Oh, 1,000%.
Not that it takes much. I think a 10-year-old can probably come up with a better plot.
Well, you just have to have a plan going in for what you want to accomplish by the end of the story.
Right? Maybe not a weird, out of left field romance either.
Yeah,
Or copy paste the previous
it's funny because I liked a lot of things that they were doing, but I don't feel like they followed through on any of those things that I liked, and it just felt like whiplash. It was a lot of whiplash.
The first one was okay, but it was just a new hope on a different planet.
Oh yeah, and I liked a lot of the deconstruction in the second film. I know it's controversial; a lot of people didn't like it, but I think even worse is the fact that the movie that followed up with it was like, just kidding about all that thing that we progressed.
Yeah.
I think that was even worse, whether you liked the stuff in the second film or not.
That last one is shameful. Like, everybody involved should be ashamed.
Somehow he returned.
Shame. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I will say it was pretty, but
it was very pretty. Yeah, that Death Star scene.
They had enough money. They had enough money to make it pretty.
It's too bad they couldn't pay somebody to come up with a better plot.
But for sure, a lot of the Star Wars games have really good plots. They're really decent storylines. Like even like the TIE Fighter game had this amazing plot line where you could take on additional objectives directly from the Emperor, and like a lot of the times those objectives like would partially sabotage the main objective. It was really interesting, cool. Like political intrigue stuff going on. So yeah. And then
the final, I think, my favorite,
the Lego games.
I love the Lego games. I mean, that's what I've been playing the past couple of weeks. So
heck yeah, it's funny because I definitely had I've played a couple that I liked, but I definitely I encountered a lot of like some of these games. The Lego games have really bad frame rate. Like they just run like molasses. Some of them.
Even the new ones, I've encountered a number of glitches, like Lego DC Villains. Sometimes just the that one and the Marvel one, but I think it was especially Marvel because I remember they like gave you a place where you could leave feedback, and if you found bugs, and I'm like, the cutscenes don't trigger half the time, so you had to start the level over again or start back to a checkpoint because they just didn't trigger.
It's so frustrating.
And those came out recently.
Yeah, and I think one of the Lego games I tried to get into was the Pirates of the Caribbean one because I really liked those films.
That was a bad one.
And it was unfortunately notorious for being like the worst one of all the Lego games. And I know that the Star Wars ones were really well regarded, but as you can already tell, I played a ton of Star Wars games already. I didn't need a Lego version. So like I feel like I wish I had played maybe the Indiana Jones ones or like the Jurassic Park one or something different. From the ones I did play. But I had a ton of fun with the Lego Dimensions games. Those games, my wife and I played, and it was like, I think we got it when we got the PS4, and it was just so much fun. And like you buy the Lego set and you put the like, so it was a Toys to Life game, right? So it was like kind of like Skylanders, and or like the Disney Infinity one. Except because it was Lego, you get to build it yourself, so I found it way more engaging, way more interesting, right? Like Lego bricks have worth on their own, and I know that the other games, like the figurines, are at least still figurines, right? But I don't know, I really like Dimensions just because they had so many licenses.
They did.
Like I picked up the Sonic the Hedgehog pack, and I picked up the Doctor Who pack, and like I think I might have been telling you this the other day, but like it was really funny how like when you play as certain characters, they have certain lines that they say to each other, and like Sonic the Hedgehog was like, "Hey, I heard you named a screwdriver after me," and like it's just cute little things like that, and they just had such attention to detail on all the little licenses. Like they had some Harry Potter, some
Portal.
Ghostbusters. Yeah, Portal. I never picked up the Portal one. I really should. Um,
Yeah. I wish I
yeah,
had gotten into it, but
the
I was
Goonies.
working at GameStop and I was just so
Over Toys to Life.
yeah, because I had to keep oh God
Yeah,
Skylanders like
sure.
every year they just had something new and weirder.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
and to be fair, those kinds of things aren't cheap.
no, they're
Um,
so expensive.
yeah, I will say it was kind of nice that like most of the time, the packs of characters like came with like unlocking the levels for those characters.
Yeah, that was the nice part about it was basically like you're buying the character and expansion and the like the model itself, which I think the Dimensions one had a better like process. I wish I had bought into it when it was a thing because I think I probably would have enjoyed it. I
Yeah.
was just so mad that it existed along with the other two.
Oh, of
So,
course. Yeah, yeah. No, they were such big cash things for companies for a
mhm.
while. So I don't know. I just it was really fun. I did like it. I will say again, the Lego games, especially when they go split screen, because I mean I always played them co-op. I never really played them by myself, but I know 1,000% the game ran so much smoother if you played it
Oh,
alone.
see,
But
I
it's
played
like,
it basically by myself. My sister and I sometimes played Lego Star Wars together
oh yeah,
because it was like one of the few games we could play together. Um,
you basically lose a third of the frame rate when
mhm.
you go to split screen.
Yeah.
And so like I really liked it, but every once in a while there was like some map or some area, like I think it was like the DC Metropolis area, like that level like slowed
Yeah.
down so much when you got there, just because it was loading so much. And I don't know, those games just weren't very they weren't very optimized for something. I don't know if it was the lighting or if it was the loading of assets or what, but something really slowed those games down. So I really like Dimensions quite a bit, but I don't know. I generally have a negative opinion of a lot of the Lego games.
In general, I mean, I have the exact opposite. Like, I love them. I've played, I think, most of them, minus, like, I didn't, because I've never seen the Lego video game, so, like, I haven't played the like, the Lego movie
Oh
game.
right, they had the movie game, and then they had another one that was a completely
There's,
original
like,
license, like
yeah,
the
there's
undercover, like the cop one for the Wii
Undercover.
U.
Yeah, there's a couple. I haven't played those, but I played most of the licensed ones. Like, I've
I did
played,
I did hear that was really well reviewed though.
I think most of them have been.
Yeah.
Because like I've played the vast majority of them. I know I'm probably missing some, but I know I've played Star Wars, Hobbit, Indiana Jones. I did play the Pirates of the Caribbean one. It was really bad.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't play all the Harry Potter ones, but like the first ones I did.
Hmm.
Um, and I think did I say Batman? That was one of the first ones I played.
Oh no, you didn't.
Yeah,
I forgot they made a
Batman was
Batman.
really good.
Nice.
And then I haven't picked up the newest Star Wars one yet. I will probably when it goes on sale. I'm saving it anyway because I'm going to get it for Steam so I can play it on my Steam Deck whenever I'm eventually able to buy one.
Yep. Yep.
um,
Oh my god. You know what? This is reminding me. I totally forgot that there were Lego games before the Traveler's Tales licensed games. Um, I
yeah.
grew up with a lot of Lego games as a kid, and Lego Racers was like we didn't we didn't have an N64. Lego Racers was our Mario Kart.
Hmm.
Um, that game had, I think it had like a power up leveling up type system that was a little bit similar to like the Crash Team Racings, where you would grab like a green brick and that would be like the boost. And if you grabbed some white bricks, it would like improve your power up,
Oh, interesting.
and you could do it like up to 3 times. So there's like regular boost, like medium boost, and like crazy warp boost. Um, and yeah, the red bricks were for
That's pretty
like
cool.
weapons. Yeah, those were really fun. It's a short game for sure.
That's cool. I unlocked a forgotten memory about Lego Rock Band. I
Oh
remember
my
I never played
gosh.
it, but like I remember it like just they've come up with like a lot of weird ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
I think they're just so fun. They're so and they can be frustrating sometimes. I think like I remember playing Indiana Jones and realizing I had never seen all of the movies. Like I've seen at least the first one. I knew that, but like I was trying to figure out what to do, and my mom was watching me because we were on vacation, and she's like, "You don't you remember the plot of the movie? Like you have to do this." And I'm like, "I don't think I've seen this movie."
Yeah, yeah, it's funny. I like those movies, but it can be really hazy. Like they can blend for me, like what
Yeah.
happened in which movie. So it's too easy
Yeah.
to miss one and not realize it.
I like the Jurassic Park one because they take literal like well and some of them anyway, like the DC one and the Marvel one, like the characters talk. So sometimes there's like a prompt or like a cut scene where they're talking and like you know what you have to do. And I didn't like this about the Jurassic Park one at first, but it took sound bites from like the dialogue and just
Oh,
like
okay.
had the characters say it. But in like I realized I'd only seen the first Jurassic Park movie. I hadn't seen the other two, like I was saying before. So having those voice cues, and I imagine for
Mm,
like a kid too, you know, because
right.
primarily these games are for kids, you know, some sort of like cue as to what's going on, you know, who's talking, who the characters. Like, I didn't like it at first because I thought, well, I'm like, this is kind of cheap, you know, why are they talking? And then, like, I think it's actually an asset for especially I don't think you needed as much for like Batman because it wasn't
No.
you know it wasn't based on any of the movies or anything, it
Yeah,
was just its own thing. But
yeah, they
for
did
some
start off purely silent, the
yeah,
first
they did.
few.
Mhm. Yeah, they
Yep.
did. I don't
Which
know at what point they added dialogue. So,
hmm.
but it definitely helps. It was easier to figure stuff out, and I think it actually adds to the charm a little bit because it feels more like a video game versus, you know, I think it's just a little more interactive.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
But
that's
yeah,
cool.
the good, the bad, the franchised.
Yep, yep. Plenty of, I mean, and there's, oodles and oodles. There's thousands of licensed
Yeah.
games we could have
Oh,
talked
so
about.
many.
I was like considering whether or not to talk about the TMNT beat 'em ups. There's so many of
There's a
them.
lot
There's
of them.
one coming. Um, I played 1,000 of them, but it's kind of hard to talk about them individually because they were all so different.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, every superhero franchise has had a
A
ton of
thousand.
license.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was a period, you know, in the 90s and early aughts when every single movie,
Got a
I think,
video
got
game.
it.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
did. Yeah, that's when I was working in a video game store. I can
Oh my gosh.
attest to like everything. Like if there's a movie, bam, there's a video game, and some of them are pretty bad.
Oh yeah. Well, and they were trying to push them out for the movie release.
Yeah.
Um, and then always, pushing for an early deadline with
Hmm.
no option for delay is
Yeah.
always a bad recipe. Um, that's why a lot of sort of the simpler games were okay, because it was easier to make some older 2D games. Then
Yep.
things got more complicated in 3D.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I'm happy at the state where things are now, where like they're not trying to make things happen on release date. They're trying to tell new stories with existing
Yep.
characters. Like,
Yeah, I
um,
appreciate that.
yeah, it's crazy. Like, I don't know, it's getting better.
Hmm.
It has gotten better, and there's the gems like we talked about. So cool. Well, I think I've licensed myself out.
Yeah.
So what are your plans for the next couple of weeks?
I I'm kind of in a gaming lull right now.
That's
So
fair.
I think I'm just gonna reach into my backlog and play something. I don't know if it's gonna be for my Switch, for my I mean, for our next episode, I'll probably do some research like you did for this one.
Mm,
And you know, to either refresh my memory or play something that like maybe I haven't played before. So I think I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna reach in my backlog or and then find something,
Nice.
and then continue playing through the Lego games because there's a lot of the newer ones have a ton of content.
That's cool.
Like outside of the levels, you can like wander through, different areas. So like at least the DC Marvel ones, like it's a pretty big area. They have a lot of unlockables, so it's a ton of content.
Cool.
Yeah, what are you playing?
Well, yeah, I'm playing through a Pokemon hack called Pokemon Prism that I'm actually really digging. Um, on sort of my newly modded GBA. So I'm hoping to play more of that. The flashcard has this weird thing with the save file where, like sometimes it doesn't. Um,
Yeah,
and
sounds about right.
I've already had my save file corrupted once, so
Lovely.
I'm a little like anxiety about it. So I'm gonna see if I can just throw that ROM hack onto the Steam Deck instead and play it there. But it's really convenient to play it on the GBA, so I would like to. Um, and then I just recently picked up the Castlevania Lords of Shadows for the PS3, and I've never played Lords of Shadows, but they look really good. There's the good 3D Castlevania games. So I'm excited to get into it and see what it's like, because I played a few Castlevania games, really enjoyed some, really didn't in some others. Like I really like Dracula X, the PSP remake. Symphony of the Night was pretty decent, but it was a lot. So I don't know. I'm hoping for more Castlevania fun, in a sort of different style.
Sounds good. I love Castlevania, so.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I definitely have been reinterested since the shows.
It was so good.
It was
It was
really,
so
really
good.
good.
Jeez, it was so good.
Yeah, the Castlevania show is amazing.
Yeah. Oh, very, very good. It was like the
Nice.
perfect adaptation, I think.
I think so too.
Yep.
I couldn't have hoped for better.
No. Mm-mm. Well, I think that about concludes this episode. Thank you all for listening.
And I hope you listeners all look forward to the eventual Lego adaptation of the Back to Backlog podcast.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.